Good morning to all of you. I am Neetu Gehlot. I am working as assistant professor in St. Andrews Institute of Technology and Management, Gurgaon. Today I am taking my 12th lecture of biology, unit 2, and the topics which are covered in this lecture are the amino acid and some part of the carbohydrate also. So, come to the topic, that is amino acid, and other topic of my lecture is the general introduction of the carbohydrate. So firstly, we goes with the amino acid. As we know that amino acid, that is a organic compound which contains the amine and the carboxylic functional group. So amino acids, or we can say that they are the organic compounds in which one functional group is the amino group and the second functional group is the carboxylic group. So here amino and we know that amino acid is the part of the protein also, and almost amino acid parts is was covered in the previous lecture, that is the protein. So here I again repeat the some amino acid parts, and there are the some new topics are included here. So now, as we know that the amino acid contains the two functional groups. First is the amino group and second is the carboxylic group. So amino group, that is basic in nature, and the carboxylic group we know that is the acidic in nature. So here the representation of the alpha amino acid, it is the carbon, one side hydrogen, one side R, and one side NH2, and one side is the COH group. So here we can see that one amino group is attached to the carbon, and one the carboxylic group is attached to the carbon. And we can see here that this carbon is a chiral carbon because it has the four different groups attached. Okay, when the four different groups are attached to a central carbon atom, so it means this is a chiral carbon atom, or it is called the asymmetric. So now we know that the amino acid are the basic unit from which the proteins are made. We have already discussed in the protein topic that the proteins are made by the amino acid, and the amino acid are joined together by the polypeptide chain here. So now the over 170 amino acids are currently known to occur in the cell and tissues, and these only the 20 are commonly found in the protein. These are called the magic 20. So they are substituted methanes. As we know the structure of the methane, in this structure, in the methane, there is the formula of the methane is the CH4. So here we can compare the methane structure of the methane with the amino group. As the if there is a methane is here, so it means the one carbon here and the four are the hydrogen which are attached to the carbon, that is the CH4. And here we know in the amino acid the one hydrogen is replaced by the NH2 group, one hydrogen is replaced by the COH group, and one is the R group, and one H is same here. So this is the substitute of the methane. Now this is the called the alpha amino acid. Depending upon the relative position of the ammonia group, amine group with respect to the acidic group, or we can say carboxylic group. So the amino acid are classified as the alpha, beta, gamma, and delta amino acids. So only alpha amino acids are obtained by the we know that they are obtained by the hydrolysis of the protein. So thus the alpha amino acid are, these are called the building block of protein. Now come to the classification of amino acid. So the amino acid is classified into the three classes. These are the neutral amino acid, second is the acidic amino acid, and third is the basic amino acid. As their names suggested, that in the neutral amino acid means one amine group is present and one is the carboxylic group is present here. So these are the neutral. Then acidic amine group, it means there are the one amine group and the two are the acidic group. So this is the nature is the acidic acidic, so it is called the acidic amino acid. And the third is the basic, it means the two amine group and one carboxylic group. So it is like the basic nature of the amino acid. So here we study about there the first amino acids such as that like the glycine, alanine, valine, etc., which contain one NH2 group and one COH group. So these are called the neutral amino acid. Second type of amino acids such as the example is the aspartic acid, asparagine, and the glutamic acid, which contains the two carboxylic group and the one amino group. So this is called the acidic amino group. Then come to the third type, the alpha amino acid like the lysine, arginine, and the histidine, which contain the two NH2 group and one COH group. So these are called the basic amino acid. So now we know about the acid, neutral amino acid, acidic amino acid, and the basic amino acid also. And there the classification of the amino acid on the basis of nutritional. So on the nutritional based classification, there are the two types of the amino acid. First is the essential amino acid and second type of amino acid called the non-essential amino acid. So essential amino acid means ये होते हैं जो हमारी बॉडी सिंथेसाइज नहीं करती है बट इनकी रिक्वायरमेंट बहुत इनकी नीड बहुत होती है. So these are called the essential amino acid. So as here we can explain that amino acids which cannot be synthesized by the body and therefore need to be supplied through the diet is called essential amino acid. So 10 amino acids come under this group. So here some of them are here like the arginine, valine, histidine, and methionine. Now you understand the essential amino acid and now come to the non-essential amino acid. So the non-essential amino acids are the body can synthesize about 10 essential amino acids. ये हमारी बॉडी में बनते हैं to meet the biological need, hence they need not be consumed in the diet. So these are the non-essential. As the example is the glycine, alanine, tyrosine, glutamine, etc. So now we know about a classification which is based on the nutrition. So there are the two types of amino acid. One is essential and second is the non-essential. Essential means which cannot synthesized by the body and non-essential is synthesized in the body. So these are the essential and the non-essential amino acid. Now come to the properties of amino acid. Here there are the some physical and the some chemical properties also. So the some physical properties, amino acid differ in their physiochemical properties which determine the characteristics of protein. These are the physical and some other chemical properties. So here the physical properties are important for us. Um, There the first is the solubility. Most of the amino acid, as we know that they are the usually soluble in water and they are insoluble in the organic solvent. Organic solvent, as you know, these are the benzene and the CCl4. These are the organic solvent. So according to the solubility, some amino acids are soluble in water and they are insoluble in the organic solvent. Now come to the next point here, the melting point. So we know that the melting point of the amino acids are the generally high temperature. High is the melting point. So they have the generally the high temperature for melting. Then they are usually colorless, non-volatile, crystalline, solid. Then next, amino acid may be sweet, tasteless, or bitter, and for this property, it is useful in the food industry. That so here we can say that the amino acid may be sweet, tasteless, or bitter, is used as the flavoring agent in the food industry. Now, the amino acid contains both acidic and the basic group. They contain donate. अगर suppose both the characters are here acidic or the basic character, so it means it works as the ampholyte. It is called the ampholyte. Or here it can donate donate a proton or accept a proton. So these amino acids are called the ampholyte. So now amino acid contains the both acidic and the basic group, so they can donate a proton and they can accept a proton. So hence these amino acids are ampholites. Now the some chemical properties, just like the reaction with the ammonia. So aspartic acid react with the ammonia and it's give the asparagine. Glutamic acid react with ammonia, it gives the glutamine. And now reaction with the anhydrine. So alpha amino acid reacts with the anhydrine to form a purple, blue or the pink color complex. These are from the related to the keto group, ammonia, carbon dioxide and the hydrogen. Now come to the functions of the amino acid. There are some functions these are the variety of the roles in the metabolism. As we know, it has the um, it takes part in the metabolism. Then second is the building block of the protein and the forming part of the coenzyme. These are the main functions of the amino acid. And we know when the protein are digested or we can say that the broken down, so the amino acid are left. So the human body use amino acid to make the protein to help the body. And then these are the main functions and the perform many other body functions also. So these are the main functions of the amino acid. So this is the introduction about the amino acid. I want to repeat again here. Just as we know that the amino acid are the amino acid are organic compound which contains the two functional groups. One is the amino group and the carboxylic group, and one amino group is the basic nature, and the carboxylic group is has the acidic nature. So it is the formula of the alpha amino acid. So and now come to the amino acids are the basic unit of the which protein. Amino acids are the basic unit from which protein are made, and here the over 170 amino acids are currently known, and 20 are the commonly found in the proteins. These are the magic 20. Now we have discussed the alpha amino acid, then the classification of alpha amino acids. So there are the neutral amino acid, these are the acidic amino acid, there are the basic amino acids. So we have already discussed alpha, neutral, acidic and the basic amino acids. So now the classification based upon the nutrition. So there are the essential amino acid and the non-essential amino acid. Now we know about the essential and the non-essential amino acid. Then goes the property of amino acids, and the some physical and the chemical properties, and after that there are the some uses of the amino acid. So now come to the next topic, which is related to our biomolecules. So these are the carbohydrates. Firstly, what do you know about the carbohydrates? हम generally carbohydrates उनके क्या चीज mind में लाते हैं? So for the general discussion, I want the general discussion about the carbohydrates. So that is the most important class of the biomolecules. Okay, so these these include the compound like the कहाँ कहाँ मिल सकता है शुगर है मीट है आपका स्टार्च है सेलुलोज है ग्लाइकोजन है गम है these are the compounds. So although they are widely distributed both in the plant and the animal kingdom, but they are obtained mainly from the plants. So they are formed in plants by the process that is called the photosynthesis, and make up about 70% of the solid plant material. So these are the general discussion about the carbohydrates, and we can prepare the carbohydrate by the carbon dioxide and the hydrogen. Oh, sorry, carbon dioxide and the water molecule. So in the presence of the sunlight and the chlorophyll, so there is the formation of the carbohydrate and oxygen. Now the come to the topic that is the carbohydrate are the mainly compound, and we know that it is compounds component the components of the carbohydrates are carbon, hydrogen, and the oxygen. So they are broadly defined a polyhydroxy, aldehyde, or ketones, and their derivatives or a substance that yields one of these compounds. This is the new definition of the carbohydrate. So here the functional groups present include hydroxyl group. So, we know that the functional group of the carbohydrate is the hydroxyl group, and the and indicate the sugar is the O's, OSE, O's. And these are the indication of the sugar. So these are also called the saccharides. Now, about 65% of the food in our diet, it consists of carbohydrate. Now come to the classification. It is very important and the थोड़ा सा typical भी है. तो classification क्या कहता है कि these are classified into the following three classes depending upon their behavior towards the hydrolysis. So three types of the carbohydrates are the monosaccharides, disaccharides or oligosaccharides, and third type is the polysaccharides. So here, firstly, the monosaccharides, so they are a single sugar unit. Okay, the sugar unit, वो एक sugar unit है, or that is the monosaccharide. So these are the single sugar unit, and the formula of the sugar unit is the CnH2nOn. Okay, so this is the molecule general formula of the sugar. So the monosaccharides are important as energy sources and as building block for the synthesis of large molecule. So these are classified according to the number of carbon atom. So first is the monosaccharide is classified as a triosis. That is, if the carbon number of the carbon atom is 3, it is a triosis. The example of the triosis is the glyceraldehyde or the dihydroxyacetone. Then if the carbon number of carbon atom is 4, then is the tetrose. It is the example of the tetrose is the erythrose and the erythrolose. Then carbon number of carbon atom is 5, so it is pentose. And here is the ribose, ribulose, and the xylose are the example of this type of sugar. Now come to the number of carbon atom 6. So here it is the hexose. Hexose is with the 6 carbon. So glucose, fructose, and galactose are the example of this type of sugar. Now the heptose. Heptose means there are the 7 carbon here, and the example of the 7 carbon is the pseudoheptulose or the galactoheptose. So these are the monosaccharide classification. I repeat again the classification of monosaccharides on the basis of the number of carbon atom. First is it depends upon the number of carbon atom. So I repeat again, the carbon atom is 3, so it is triose. Number of carbon atom 4, it is tetrose. Number of carbon is 5, pentose. Carbon is 6, then hexose, and the carbon is 7, so it is heptose. Now come to the second type, that is our disaccharides or oligosaccharides. In the disaccharide, it means the 2 monosaccharides are here. These are formed by the disaccharides are formed by the 2 monosaccharides. They usually hexose combine by means of a chemical reaction as the condensation means that is the removal of water molecule. So here the reaction this is the C6H12O6 and the condensation process. So it forms a C12H22O11 and the water molecule. And just reverse of this reaction is the hydrolysis, and according to the hydrolysis, so it is the formation of the C6H12O6 again. So now the bond formed between the 2 monosaccharides are called the glycoside bond. Here are the example of the disaccharides. The first is a maltose. Maltose is a glucose plus glucose here. Then second type is the lactose. So it is formed by the glucose and the galactose. And the third is the sucrose. It is formed by the glucose and the fructose. So these are the disaccharides. Now come to the trisaccharides. So the composed of 3 monosaccharides here. The example is the raffinose. It is formed by the 1 mole of each. Means 1 mole of each means there is the galactose, there are the glucose, and the fructose. So 1 mole of the each, and there is the formation of the raffinose. This is the trisaccharide. It is a non-reducing sugar which is found in some plant as the transport carbohydrates. Now come to the next type of the sugar, that is called the tetrasaccharides. As the name suggests that here is the four monosaccharides are presented. So it is formed by the four monosaccharides. Example as the stachycose, and it is composed by the 2 moles of the galactose, 1 mole of the glucose, and 1 mole of the fructose, which are, so it is formed by the 2 mole of galactose, 1 mole of glucose, and 1 mole of the fructose. So these are formed by the 4 monosaccharides. Now the reducing sugar, that the reducing sugar means that the all monosaccharides and some disaccharides is including maltose and the lactose are the reducing sugar. Okay, so these are the reducing sugar. Now the another type of the saccharides are the polysaccharides. Polysaccharides these are the polymer of the monosaccharides, है ना, इसमें मतलब बहुत सारे monosaccharides ऐड हो जाएंगे. So these are the polymer of the monosaccharide. Functions chiefly is as food and energy store and is structurally materials. So structurally these are the two types. First is the homopolysaccharide and the heteropolysaccharides. Homopolysaccharides means there are the repeated unit. So the complex carbohydrate that are formed by the repeated condensation or polymerization of only one type of monosaccharides, monomer. Okay, so homopolysaccharides means only the one type of monosaccharide monomers. These are uh, added or repeated by condensation of the polymerization. So the example is the pentosan and the hexosan. These are the homopolysaccharides. Now the second is the heteropolysaccharides. In the heteropolysaccharides, means the monomers are the different here. So the complex carbohydrates that are formed by the condensation of more than one type of monosaccharide monomers. The example is the pectine and the mucopolysaccharides. These are the example of the heteropolysaccharides. And the polysaccharides containing, as we study above, that the polysaccharides are the polymer of the monosaccharides, and here we know that the polysaccharides containing 10 or more monosaccharides units which are attached together. So these are the polysaccharides. Now the function, according to the functionality, there are the three types of polysaccharides. These are the storage polysaccharides, in which the starch, glycogen, inulin, structure polysaccharides, storage polysaccharides, starch, glycogen, inulin. Then the structure polysaccharides, glucose, chitin, and the murin. And the mucopolysaccharides, which are the pectin, agar-agar, and the hyaluronic acid. So this is a classification of the carbohydrates. The important part is the monosaccharides, disaccharides, and the polysaccharides. Okay, so this is the general classification of the carbohydrates. In our next lecture, we are discussing about the glucose, fructose, starch, cellulose. Uh, so now I want to stop my lecture. If you have query, then contact with me. Thank you.